It's 5:45 in a few minutes a.m. And I'm thinking about how so many people are limited in a bad way. Because, for many reasons, especially when it comes with or when it comes to the internet. Like, I was trying to upload a video that I recorded a few hours ago, and I can't upload it to any of my profiles. And it's because the websites that I'm using have no other means for me to log into them to access my personal account, to access my personal accounts that I act under. Like, Facebook has, a bunch of them, because I have my personal account. Then I created some business websites, business pages, and I can't even access that stuff. So I'm being limited, and it's not a good thing. And who knows how many other people are out there dealing with the same problem, and it's not a good at all. And who knows what type of stress, what type of anxiety that is putting people under. It's really not clear. And it frustrates me mainly because it's limiting a lot of people. It really is. And the same type of code that these websites use should be using some form of secondary login methods. Like, I think a good one will be like an ID, scanning of the ID, the card, for some form of authorization along with some other information. Like, there's this website, I think it's called ID.me, and it had me scan my face on the website when I clicked on a button. So something like that would also be great, along with ID, so I can do a quick scan of the face and therefore picking up vital points and eye recognition, maybe even voice recognition. But there has to be different formats or more options of login options for people not to get locked out. Because it also reminds me, my mom had to do the same thing. She had to undergo the same problem because she forgot her password, like I do. I forget my passwords all the time. So therefore she had to go and create an additional Facebook page because she got locked out. She forgot her password. You see what I'm talking about? So there's a lot of people who don't understand. Oh, we sent an email. We sent a link to your email address to reactivate your password. Some people are not really on that level of understanding, and it's too complicated for them to understand all that because there's just so much stuff to remember in the world. And then once we go to that website, they want the same shit. They want the same password. Well, not the same password itself, but the same process. People have to undergo the same process to access a different website. And I mean, I've noticed a lot of, positive changes in the login regard, especially sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook, sign in with Apple. And then there's Chrome, 1Password, Google Chrome, 1Password. There's a lot, but either way, we're dealing with time. And there's so many things that happen, and we only have so many hours in a day. That's what frustrates me the most, like when people have to go to the DMV and wait for hours just to process some information. When we can be doing a lot of this stuff like digitally, even if some at home workers are getting paid by these companies like the DMV, or if people have to enter some form of booth to perform work digitally. But it is what it is, like right now. So I'm not arguing that fact, but I'm just pointing out these, you know, critical points, because I believe that they can be made easier for people to access their own personal accounts through all these websites out there that they choose to log into. And it all comes down to the code HTML5 and all that. HTML, the format that a website is created. And then we have WordPress. So there's custom HTML, there's WordPress. WordPress, the widgets can be upgraded, and therefore it could affect and will keep existing or active websites active. I mean, updated. It'll keep active websites updated as time goes by, as the weeks and months and years go by. So we have to understand, we can't assume, we cannot assume that these people who have a cell phone know everything about the internet and stuff like that. We have to remember that. Only because we have come to the full knowledge of, or we have come accustomed of knowing where and how a particular website functions entirely, doesn't mean that others do. So we have to go and continue with that in mind. Because I believe that You know what? I believe that so many people are dealing with what I'm talking about. And that's the great thing about like the CIA, because sometimes people can get angry when like when they receive a new student and people in a classroom have been studying for years, decades, whatever the case may be, and here comes a new person, and this person has like some new logic. But that's only because these seasoned people been looking at the evidence from one perspective, one viewpoint, one vintage point, and now from other, other angles. And that in itself is what allows this person to stand out and therefore can be used to help and usually picked out almost immediately because, you know, they're not trying to kiss ass. They're not in it to kiss ass. And they're taking their job very seriously. So, of course, they get picked up and a job assignment and job position get issued to, this person, whoever the person might be. And it will continue to for the full duration of their career, especially if they're excelling. Otherwise, they're going to move on to other people because it's called innovation, you know, research and development. We can't just be focusing and looking at all this from one angle our whole fucking lives and expect to for that shit to function the same way, because it's not. And that's where a lot of people are missing the whole fucking point, respectfully. Because, life is happening. There's a lot happening. And people just don't have time to be babying everyone and lecturing everyone. There's just not that much time to brief everyone. But luckily for all of us, we have the World Wide Web. And although some information gets outdated or upgraded or whatever, it can leave some in confusion especially if they're newcomers, without them knowing the knowledge of the update, or information that has been outdated. So that's why keywords are very important. That's why everything is important. Because if something changes, it can affect everything else. But at the same time, affect it for the greater good, not to cause more confusion. Because yes, one change in any particular website can be good with good intentions, but once it's made, it could have a ramification or effect that others don't fully understand, so therefore it leaves them in confusion. And when it does that, then people get angry and frustrated, and they want to like release their anger on people, but in reality they don't really understand the full scope of the real mission, the why the change was made and approved in effect. So there's a lot of limitations in this life. Maybe they're intended to be on purpose, but I just, like, my freaking hand is asleep. Because I could be, I love sharing about this because I could be one of the people who is with the crowd, like in a classroom, and maybe I'm just looking at everything from one point of view. But the great thing about the internet is it doesn't wait for people. It doesn't fucking kiss ass to anyone. I don't have to get to know you. No one else has to get to know someone for so many years. It's just, what's the word? Authenticity, authentically, or authentic, like real. And when that information is presented, it is then revealed, made manifest. It's plain. People don't have to try to understand anything. It just makes complete fucking sense. So something gets updated, it's apparent. It's very apparent. And that's what I'm talking about. And I mean, everything I'm talking about, it's growth. It's growth. So growth is happening in every single industry. And there's so many industries out there. It's just like when people go online, they write reviews, pro or con. That's great information. That's like people reporting different scenarios, different, like police officers um, filing reports. It's the same thing with people filing reviews. That's critical information that can be used to help people and assist other people who are dealing with the same issues out there. Whether they are written statements or verbal statements or illustrations like videos and stuff like that. All that plays a factor because some people are sketching, some people are drawing and stuff like that. So some people don't have time, some people don't even have the right tools to go about this professionally like some people do. Like there's Photoshop, there's a lot of video editing apps, there's a lot of photo editing apps and a bunch of other stuff, but some of them cost money, therefore limiting people on top of other expenses like internet, Wi-Fi, and other life problems. Maybe they don't have enough money to afford their like their devices, or maybe they don't have they're not going through the same issues that we are. They could be fucking broke, struggling. So how do people expect people to contribute if they're struggling? They're limited in ways we can't even imagine. So we have to take that into consideration as well, because there's a lot of people out there that are submitting information whether they are aware of it or not. So therefore as people, we have to provide everyone with the necessary tools, with the tools that are required, to obtain all this information so we can perfect everything, or else we're just going to be going in circles with all this. Like Moses, when he released the people from Egypt, the Israelites, and they were going around the forest for 40 years. We don't want to go through that. We shouldn't go through that. We shouldn't be overly complicating everything. And remembering that there's a bunch of like segregations within organizations, and they're all performing different tests. They're performing different job assignments. And really, they don't have time for to be focusing on everything. People just don't have the time for that. But see, I'm just a human just like everyone else. But what we're really dealing with is the World Wide Web, the internet. So we really like, we really don't need to stress ourselves out. I believe what we need to do is file a report, whether it's verbal or whatever the case may be, because later on, when all this stuff gets perfected, then it will be an extraction of vital points, of vital information, so it can be compressed and utilized for the greater good. And that's the World Wide Web listening and taking into consideration, like, everyone's struggles, and relieving those people, us, everyone in the world, from those issues. Because the internet is going to be able to detect bugs. People are struggling with this, people are struggling with this, people are struggling with this, people are struggling with this. Hundreds of different issues that we can't even think of, that we're not even thinking of right now. But the internet will be able to pick those up and resolve them. So that's what I mean by limiting. A lot of people are they're limited, and it forces people to have to go and create another Facebook page. It forces people to, find different alternatives to achieve the same outcome, hopefully, for the most part. That type of thing. And we just have to just get creative, I guess. I suppose, like, and just thinking a little bit more outside the box, like, and figuring out different alternatives